Yeah, we have $5 super chat from Jason W. Paul, with all the well-sourced stories about Pac-12 not getting $40 million in revenue and now less than the Big 12, why do you still think there will be no Pac-12 movement? I just don't think that every condition is right for it right now. I think that there are a lot of factors in that. I think that right now they're in a position where not enough teams have another place to go, so they can stick together long enough to make that work. And if there was a second conference other than the Big 12 in play here to absorb them, then I would think that this would be very tenuous. And maybe it is, maybe it's not. But I don't get the feeling from the Big 10, what they've been doing lately, that is. I also think that if they wanted Washington and Oregon, they could have just taken them when they took USC and UCLA. I don't think that was all part of it. They went and got the ratings cow from the Pac-12. They got it. They got USC. That's what they wanted. They got UCLA, which takes the market completely out from under the Pac-12. So the Pac-12 now, I mean, yeah, they might get less than the Big 12, but it's still better than the next down will be, and they got to do something. It's going to be a short-term deal. Now, I do think that this could be the first wave of that, and then 5 years from now we could see a total catastrophe when it comes to that. But I just don't think that every condition is right now for that to happen, because there's enough schools that don't have a place to go, or there's at least a couple that I would just assume don't want to come to the Big 12. One is Colorado because they left it the first time, and the second is Utah because they don't really want to be in the league with BYU, and both of them wouldn't do that unless the conditions were forcing them to.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen just because I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense right now. That's just the simple answer from me. There's not enough of a money difference based on what we know right now to make it worthwhile to jump time zones and make traveling more difficult and, spread yourself out a lot thinner than you have been accustomed to, just simply for, let's say, $5 million more a year. I mean, what are you really gaining from that? I mean, how much more stability, how much more visibility are you gaining? Because, the Big 12's got its TV slots, but if you suddenly add 2-4 more teams in there, then guess what? Everybody's going to be on TV a little bit less, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's only – if you have 12 teams right now, there's the TV spots you occupy. If you add 2 to 4 more teams, that's more games, but the slots are the exact same. Mm-hmm. So that's just more ESPN Plus games.
No,
that's
more
not
streaming games.
That's not more ABC games. That's not more ESPN primetime games because you have more teams. That's just more teams that are now on ESPN Plus or whatever. So, with the TV deal they have it currently constructed and the money that we know the Big 12 is going to be getting, with the thought being, and unless the thought's just wildly inaccurate, but with the thought being that there's not going to be too much of a difference. I know there's the Pac-12, folks who at least, over the last few months at some point in time thought the Pac-12 is still going to end up with a better deal overall, like per year money. Okay, let's say let's say that happens, and congratulations, everybody owes them an apology for having like $500,000 more per year if that's the way that it works out. But if they do end up with less, okay, how much less are we talking? Is it $2, $3 to $5 million less? Well, I think that's offset by your extra travel cost, and all of a sudden you're traveling to UCF on a Wednesday night to play basketball from Eugene, Oregon. Like, that just doesn't to make $2.5 million more. Like, I just don't know that that's worth all of the effort and the stress that comes with that. So it would have to be a noticeable difference to me to make sense to want to move. Like, double-digit millions of dollars.
That's why USC and UCLA can move, and all because
they're making tons more money.
They're making tons more money.
I do believe that, and I had somebody tell me this. That's pretty much entrenched in a lot of this stuff in the movement of how much would it cost if the Pac-12 teams ended up in another conference. And again, I don't think it's going to happen either. I don't think they're going to dissolve at least this particular wave. But on average, is going to be about $800,000 per school.
So that's not worth it. That's not worth it to go. Like, just throw away your history and your regionality and what you do have to work with for a few $100,000. Like, that's peanuts in the grand scheme of things.
If you're going to get an extra $5 to $8 million and you have to pay $800,000 for it, I'm talking about it. If the new deal comes out and they're going to get $5 or $6 million less, if they were to join the Big 12, and again, we don't know if anyone wants to, but they would cost them on average about $1 million per program in travel cost. And then you have, like you said, you have to offset the plus and negative from what you get compared to if you just stay where you are.
So it would have to be a drastically different deal, and there's no indication that it's going to be like $10 million less. So, again, that's why it's important to know, what is their freaking TV deal going to be? Mm-hmm. Where is this thing? Like, it's another – and I know they're not on like a shot clock in that we are owed their TV deal, but, like, until they actually show what this is going to look like, it's all just speculation. And so all these questions really not all of them, but a lot of them, as far as the Pac-12 and its future and all that, depends on what this TV deal looks like. Because if it's about the same as the Big 12, then there's a lot of hand-wringing over nothing, because there's no real motivation to go anywhere, knowing that in about 5 years we're going to do all of this all over again anyways. So I think what really the wild card that was thrown into this was the Kevin Warren departure. He was the one that was greasing the gears over further expansion and really had everybody in a tizzy because of kind of the cutthroat way he executed the LA move. And then the teasing of, well, we might not be done yet, or we're always open, and all that. And so that automatically led to the Oregon-Washington speculation, which then had a little sprinkling of Cal at one point and Stanford at one point. And how high are they going to go? Oh, my God, they're going to go to 32 teams. They're going to scoop the AC, all of that stuff. And then Kevin Warren leaves, and then it turns out, well, the Big Ten didn't really want to do all this much anyways, so they're standing pat. So that changed the equation. So, the other part of this is, if you're the Big 12, if you feel like they're on thin ice in the next few years, I mean, why, like, if you're these schools, and this is probably going to happen anyways, if you're the Big 12, wouldn't you rather have Oregon, Washington before you'd rather have the four corner schools to begin with? Mm-hmm. And so that's part of it too. Like, what's their situation? Because they're the bigger TV draws.
With all due respect,
but I'd much rather have Oregon and Washington than another combination of the other schools. All due respect, but yeah, that's the main reason why. It's just the money difference doesn't make sense to have all of that movement. But we'll see what that TV deal looks like, because maybe that is enough of a difference.
Grand Dan, a $5 super chat. Thank you again. We've had a couple of those off the top. We appreciate that. Everything contributes to what we do. The amount of you who like, the subscriptions, all of that, the amount of energy we try to put out every single day for you, and also for the college football fans. But we have other topics. But Grand Dan, without the Pac-12, that's if there is no Pac-12, and again, I believe there will be one. Without the Pac-12, and there is one, what schools would be the best options for the Big 12 in the Mountain Time Zone?
See, that's where I think this gets a little murky, because I don't think right now, and I think it's maybe been proven out by
four, right?
What?
And then some of them share West Coast time. Right? Utah?
But he said without the Pac-12 schools, right? Isn't that the question?
No, without the Pac-12. Okay. I thought he was talking about if there was no Pac-12. I think he's talking about elsewhere outside of the Pac-12.
Yeah, without those schools, I mean, Boise State, I think, is a school that can be on a, UCF-like track with the goals they have for their athletic department. The difference will be kind of only in market size when it comes to, if you look at where they are. Provo is not a huge market size. They have a huge fan base. So their market is essentially everywhere there's Mormons, which is everywhere. And then just like Notre Dame is everywhere there's Catholics, which is everywhere. And then you look at Cincinnati, a very growing, huge market. Houston, gigantic market. Orlando is exploding. So you've got these growing markets. That's where, a lot of this stuff kind of knocks it out, where you want to create brands. And don't forget what Burke Magnus, and Dennis Dodd had a column, and it reminded me of this, where he said, look, everybody thinks about market size, and that's certainly, a benefit. But what they're trying to do, what the Big Ten knows that it needs to do, is they needed to increase for their television network and for television partners good TV shows. What are good TV shows when it comes to sports? Better matchups that people know. So the Big 12, in order to kind of get a chunk of that, is not going to be able to create that kind of buzz again as they kind of go down the ladder. So I don't know if there's schools in the Mountain Time Zone like Colorado State or someone like that really moves the needle for the Big 12 right now,
the ones
unless
that
they
would
just
be in
wait
play.
out,
wait
out the Pac-12 for 5 years. And
Mountain
see what happens
Time,
then.
I don't know if I'm right, but Boise State,
Colorado
Air
State,
Force Academy,
New Mexico, Air Force, Wyoming, Nevada, UNLV, Boise State.
Okay.
I say none of those.
All right.
Yeah.
Ope